Whenever you think of a Planet Zoo project, you'll probably think of a high-budget, high-stakes display of animals from all over the world. Some of my favorite creators have done some great builds over the years, from Rudy's beautiful Yellowstone Zoo that has mountains looming over the park, to the displays of architecture from Caesar Creates in his Elm Hill City Zoo. But what I find myself becoming more and more captivated by as time goes on has been less so the grand builds, but smaller, more local ones. I've been going to zoos ever since I was a little kid. I've been to so many of the big boys around the United States, from the San Diego Zoo Safari Park to Zoo Miami to the Columbus Zoo. But what tends to draw me in at the end of the day are those smaller facilities, those little roadside places, usually run by a small group of people or a nonprofit facility, sometimes taking in injured animals and serving as a museum for those who want to come in and learn about their native wildlife or cultures. To me, that's exactly what inspired the Santa Fe Trailside Museum. Let's get back up to speed and check out what we worked on in our previous episode. If this is your first time here, don't worry too much. You can go back and watch that episode or stick with me, it's not too much. Our museum starts off with a Pueblo Revival entrance building, and inside of it we have your staples, a small quick service restaurant where you can grab a quick bite to eat, as well as a small museum where you can learn a lot more about Mexican culture inspired from the pieces that we got in the America's Animal Pack. And beyond that, we have a great little gift shop where you can pick up some trinkets to help support the museum, or even a little plushie to remember your trip by. But once you're outside, you're greeted by one of the most iconic animals of the American Southwest. You're face to face now with the desert bighorn sheep, in this case represented by the leucistic morphs of the normal bighorn from the America's Animal Pack. They have quite a large habitat, and I even used some funky building tricks to even make a little rope bridge over it, so that's just that little bit more immersive. Just don't fall in. These guys might ram you. Beyond that, there's a bunch of small exhibits around here, including a small cage for a super rare species, the ringtail. These guys are absolutely adorable. They're a small carnivore that really only come out at nighttime, so they have a small habitat off to the side with plenty areas to hide in. If you're a console player and wondering where I got this species, it's a mod. I got it from the Planet Zoo Nexus, and I had to make the decision whether or not to use mods in this park, and ultimately I decided I really wanted to, just so I could show off the beauty of the diversity that the American Southwest has in terms of their animals. Easily one of my favorite species from North America, the nine-banded armadillo, I feel, are so iconic to the south of the United States. Even if they're considered a pest in some areas, I still love seeing these guys in here. They have a lovely little habitat. Speaking of pests, we have an exhibit for the menace of the golf course, the collared peccary. They have a great sunken habitat in here with plenty of room for them to roam around in and even roll around in the mud to cool off. And yeah, that's pretty much all we had so far. It's not much, and it's certainly not as much as we get to build today. So without further ado, welcome back to the Santa Fe Trailside Museum. We're going to be going a bit out of order here. Typically, my building style as of late has been very sporadic, but I think that works fairly well. It keeps my mind rolling. Let's go right behind the desert bighorn sheep and check out a brand new section to the Trailside Museum, the farm area. I've built so many farm areas over the past few years in playing Planet Zoo. I know domestic species aren't everyone's favorites, but I personally can't get enough of them. It really is so awesome to see how human culture can intertwine with nature. As we domesticate species over the years, we can see just how cultures can be represented by how specifically they breed their animals. And I think a species that truly represents how hardworking the cultures of the American Southwest are is the American Standard Donkey. Now, it's true, the American Standard Donkey comes from the wild ass, which was originally found in sort of Asia, Africa, but several breeds of them come to us from across the globe, but the burro itself shines as one of the most iconic domestic animals of them all. In here, they have a simple paddock, but I think there's a certain beauty to that. This entire zoo so far has been very organic. I think having this little farm section be a little bit more angular makes it that more special. These donkeys are neighbors with some baby goats as well. I have this small petting zoo section for these guys since, well, I thought it would be nice if only my guests would actually use it. Not only that, but I even made this small aviary coop thing for another new species, the California quail. Now listen, in hindsight, I would have chosen any other species of quail in here, but the California quail are just too iconic not to have in here. The little bob on their heads is just too adorable. Lowbury did such a beautiful job with this mod. But in real life, these species are typically terrible for farming. They're nervous all the time and they don't really do too well in high traffic areas. For the sake of the zoo and the video, we'll pretend they're just super confident. One of my favorite features in this area though isn't even a habitat for an animal, it's this little ranchero house. When I was looking for inspiration for this zoo, I was captivated by this little hovel in the American Southwest, so much to the point where I tried my best to recreate it. I love the bricks in here juxtaposed with the beautiful maroon wood beams. It has a certain color flare that makes this whole area really stand out. You know, I imagine this little house would have some information in here about the farms from the past and now the present, showcasing just how persistent the farmers and ranchers might have been in the past, but for Planet Zoo's sake, it's a bathroom. It fits well over here. And with that being said, our farm section is now complete. I love this area so much. It's not too detailed, but it doesn't need to be. The foliage and rock work in here really carry it, and when you look closer, it doesn't need to be incredibly detailed for it to look detailed. Many of the rock formation I have in this zoo are just copy-pasted all over. I use about the same 3 rock structures throughout here to give it the look that I want, chop off a few extra pieces from there, and boom, it looks great. The foliage does the rest of the work too. It helps to blend these rock formations into the greater desert. Deserts just aren't all about sand though. Deserts have such beautiful plants, and it just really helps this area shine all together. But with that being done, we still have so much more to do, so let's take it to the center of the zoo where we start our next project. The smaller critters in Planet Zoo are often tougher to build for, and that's especially true for the exhibit box creatures. Man, if you hear me beg for a Planet Zoo 2, it's because I know they're gonna completely rework this system. I hope. Like, it's insane how the size of a hand, like the animal the size of a hand, requires a box this big for it to function, but we made it work in here. Welcome to the Myers Desert House, a showcase of the incredible species from the deserts and forests of the American Southwest and beyond. Named after Dominic Myers, we wanted to give this building a little bit more lore, so here's my official headcanon. Okay, Dominic Myers is an Albuquerque resident and business mogul. After he worked in hedge funds for years and years, he wanted to pursue a career in refurbishing and upgrading old decrepit zoos around the world. And in the wake of spoilers for those who had 5 years to play the campaign, Bernie Goodwin disappearing in the Arctic, Dominic Myers stepped in and sought to create profitable zoos to help lift you, the zoo designer, up and give these animals the best welfare possible. And after he made a successful living for himself and the animals he now owns, he donated back to his home state of New Mexico, leading to a brand new facility and veterinary center for the Trailside Museum. And here we can see just how well his efforts have paid off. We have 3 actual exhibits for living animals in here. The axolotl swimming along represents just how important conservation is for the American Southwest. Since they only live in a single lake in Mexico, the axolotl highlights just how important it is to protect all areas of nature, since we could easily wipe out an entire species if we're not exactly careful. Across the hall from them is a species I find myself being absolutely captivated by. Meet the Gila monster. I love these reptiles so much. Their bumpy skin is awesome and they look like little beads. They're a gorgeous color too. Black and orange is such a great color combination. They do shine well against those rocks. But what's really cool about these guys is they have a certain venom they produce when they salivate. Don't let them bite you. They could easily kill you. And speaking of being very easy to kill you, look out for our next animal, the western diamondback rattlesnake. These species are known for their venom as well. Luckily, they're behind glass over here, so you're perfectly safe walking through these halls. Now, speaking of these halls, I thought it would be just a little boring having only 3 species in here, so I had to include just a little bit more life in here to really make it feel like a realistic desert house. I had a few terrariums throughout the entire building in here just to imply that we had a few more species, and I think the scale of these works so much better for Planet Zoo. Now, it could be implied that we have stuff like frogs, toads, snakes, and other odd critters in here to help flesh out the house, but since those animals are so small, I didn't really want to litter this place with the egg piece animals. For now, you can just use your imagination, but man, I love how well this building came out. I'm not really a big fan of doing interiors, but it's always a blast, especially now with the vibrant pieces from the new festival pack. Oh my gosh, the Asia Animal Pack lended just a little bit more color to this building, and I'm so happy it did. We also do a little work on the exterior as well, with a little loading area towards the rear of the building for some staff. There is even a pathway that leads to some more backstage areas too, including that veterinary center I talked about earlier. Let's check that out super quick. Now, I needed a decent area to hide all of my staff facilities. Having them out in the open like this was not going to cut it. I wanted a big, modern staff building where our incredible team of vets, educators, workers could come in, kick their feet back for a bit, and research and help species that might be here for an injury or two. I was super inspired by some modern examples of zoo architecture, and I wanted to blend a few of those desert vibes and colors with these more modern looks of architecture. All in all, I think this came out great. I didn't want to do a super detailed interior, but I love how it stands against the rest of the zoo. It's a super modern building, and I think that kind of contrast against the entrance building just works so well for a place like this. And from here we can continue back up the road and meet our next residents from that same pot of money I had imagined Mr. Dominic Myers would have donated. It went to go fund the next building we're checking out in the next area, the cat conservation area. Here we welcome 2 incredible residents, both species that can be found in the deserts and forests of New Mexico. The Ocelot is an adorable new cat that we just got in the America's Animal Pack, a small feline adapted for its wide array of environments across North and South America. These guys have an incredible place in here. Not only them, but the cougar makes its appearance in here too. Their habitats are some of my favorites in this entire park. They're a super modern look with a drooping netting keeping these critters in. Not only that, but I really wanted to get a good look of fake rockwork along the sides of the building where these agile cats could climb. Now, they can't actually climb this well in the game. I really wish that, their hitboxes and navigation worked a little bit better, but I really wanted to give a realistic looking enclosure, and I think I kind of did that super well. At least these species have a ton of enrichment in here. The scratching posts are probably some of my favorite. I love watching them use them. But overall, this came together so great. I love the mixing of architectural themes in here. I used the bamboo pieces from the tropical pack to imitate some bricks of a zoo I saw online. It's not perfect, but it has a real great definition to it. And since this area is probably one of the newer areas of the zoo, I wanted to include a bunch of freshly planted foliage in here, including these little pine trees with the supports on them. This area is shaped together so nicely, and even though the zoo isn't that big, it's fun to add a little bit more to it and give it a little bit more of a storytelling timeline. I'm not as gifted as some other people like Beyond Drew TV or Geekism in terms of storytelling, but I still wanted to give my best shot at it, and I think it came off pretty well. This is really one of the only areas that has a glass viewing too. The others you'll see in a bit, but small stuff like this can go such a long way in telling the story and history of your park. And now that our cats are nice and cozy, we can move on as we make our way up the mountain. I'll be the first to admit, I was not the most thrilled at the idea of a coyote in Planet Zoo at first, but over time I got used to the idea, and eventually I was super excited to build for them in this zoo. Just like the armadillo and the peccary from before, many people only see the coyote as a pest, but it's not really their fault. In areas like New England where I live, we humans got rid of so many of the predators that kept this species in particular in line, like the mountain lion or the wolf, leaving these canines to take over as top dog. Still though, they're super important to the ecosystem just as much as any other animal, and here, they start off our mountain trail with an expansive exhibit. It looms right over the farm section that we just worked on, with huge carnivore fencing to keep them in. Now, it's not as architecturally pretty as, the cat conservation area, but that's kind of what I wanted to go for. I wanted this realistic, kind of grungy look. A lot of the times in these small trailside, roadside zoos, you see them opt a lot more for function over form, and having these chain link fences shows that you care more about the safety of the guests and the animals over how pretty a habitat can look, and let's be honest, that costs money. Still though, I think the idea of this habitat came out looking fairly decent. The highlight of this trail has to be though, the elevated walkways. I made these by hand, and with all of them looking over this habitat, it gives you such a better look into the whole habitat itself. We have a whole family of coyotes in here, including a few extra morphs that I did not plan for. A huge thank you to Kimba Fox for the remaster on this animal. It adds a melanistic version, which is something I was super upset that we didn't get in the first place. Their little yaps kind of carry throughout the zoo too, so no matter where you are, you can always hear the coyotes vocalizing, and I think that's something really special. Continuing up the trail a little bit more brings you to a small picnic area, and even further, you're greeted by yet another cat. Here you're face to face with the beautiful bobcat, another incredibly well-adapted species you can find well over all of North America. Their habitat, I'll admit, was a little bit of a last-minute addition. I felt like this little corner needed something more interesting, so a small carnivore paddock would get the job done super well. Once again, you can see just how well this zoo prefers function over form. The habitat isn't much to be inspired by, it's just a simple climbing frame and some climb-proof fencing, but all in all, these cats have a pretty sweet dig over here. The Bobcat mod is made by Gaboy, and he did such a beautiful job with it. It's incredible to see just how talented the Planet Zoo modding community can be over any other modding community. It looks just like an official animal. We're almost at the top, and we're looking out over the vista, and we're greeted by some other great sentries of the American Southwest. Meet the black-tailed prairie dogs. These critters have probably the smallest habitat in here, but I made sure to make it at least a little bit more fun. I've been to a ton of zoos, over 70 facilities that hold animals, and one of the weirdest things I've ever seen is an Alamo-inspired prairie dog exhibit at York's Wild Kingdom in Maine, of all places. Like, you couldn't get further from the Alamo over there, buddy. Now listen, I'm sorry if it breaks your immersion, but it was too stupid not to include. How could I pass up on an opportunity like this? They're able to stand up on the top of their little hobble, and honestly, they can even pose right over the cannons. I think that is just so adorable. The crown jewel of the entire Trailside Museum sits at the top, and it's exactly what we've been building up to all this time. It's the tallest and biggest habitat in the zoo for one of the biggest birds in North America. Welcome one and all to Condor Canyon, the home to our California condors. This aviary I made entirely by hand. I don't have much footage of me putting it together, but a lot of angles, curves, and mud pillars went into the assembly of this aviary, and it was so worth it. The beautiful California Condor mod, it was made by Great Cake Mods, and yes, indeed, it does fly. I really wanted a highlight animal in this park, and I think condors made for the perfect species. I mean, after all, they're a conservation success story. The San Diego Zoo successfully bred these guys to the point where once they were at the threat of extinction, and now they're successfully breeding in the wild. It's incredible to see, and I like to imagine that our Santa Fe Trailside Museum is helping in part with that. Their habitat is huge, and to me, that would help encourage them to breed a little bit more. I even made a little nest area for them. It's not exactly perfect, but hey, it'll do. They have 2 huge dead trees throughout here to perch on as well. I'm super happy with how well they came out. A huge shout out to Caesar Creates for these originally, but with a little bit more love and some TLC, I was able to blend these guys seamlessly into the environment even more. But this whole section, even beyond the aviary, came together so well. I knew I wanted an emphasis on the natural side of the American desert ecosystem, and this boardwalk really sealed the deal. You're not walking on dirt for most of this path, you're suspended over the land, and you're able to see species living lives as they typically do, with a bird's eye view over the entire area. I think it goes such a long way to do breakaways from the norm like this in a project in this game. It really helps make your park stand out even more. With that being said, I think we're officially ready to wrap up the Santa Fe Trailside Museum. I've been having so much fun in Planet Zoo since I've really stopped focusing on speed builds and lending myself more so towards a storytelling approach. I feel like, and I'm sure you guys can tell, that I have so much more to say on my projects than I can really say in those 600 times speed time lapses. And I hope you guys can appreciate that. This park felt like such a great return to form for me. Ever since I completed Sonora Springs Zoo, I've been really wanting to get back into a desert type, and this was finally my chance to do just that, and being able to lend a little bit more lore to this park and so many of my latest ones, it's been so rewarding. To me, Planet Zoo has always been the best creative outlet, and from so many of my parks like Hope Harbor Zoo, Wildwood Zoo, even back to Foxborough Zoo, I always try and step up my game for the next installment, and I think lately, focusing on story and, the idea of the park itself as a living, breathing thing has always paid off. We'll be doing a real-time tour of this park soon so I can talk about all the details, but for the time being, I really just wanted to leave you guys with a huge thank you. This park has been a blast to create, especially with so many of you guys attending my live streams. Those were so fun to do, and I hope to see a lot more of you there soon. Be sure to hit the bell below so you don't miss one. But no, I can't thank you guys enough, not just for the support on the series, but my entire Planet Zoo career. It seems like this game is starting to slow down a little bit, but I most certainly am not. I can't wait to head back to some of my other projects and bring my new style to some of those older ones. But with that being said, I want to thank you guys one last time for coming along for the ride, and I hope you guys all enjoy the Santa Fe Trailside Museum, which is now officially on the Planet Zoo Workshop. I also have that blueprint building kit as well. It has a bunch more stuff in it, so yeah, be sure to check that one out as well. And if you guys like this video, let me know in the comments. Let me know by liking it. And hey, if you're new here, I always do appreciate a subscription if you guys want to see more stuff like this. But yeah, I hope you guys have the most wonderful of wonderful days, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, and goodbye.